They look just like us, man. Just like you and me or your cousin AJ. If you saw one of them on the street, I swear you couldn't tell the difference. They were cool like cool beans. When I heard them playing that jazz, man, it was almost enough to make you cry. I mean, you could feel the vibe. I'm talking Coltrane or maybe Ray on the keys. Then this cat came out and hit a solo on sax. Well, it wasn't a saxophone, actually. I mean, it looked like a sax, but it wasn't. I got to tell you, it definitely sounded like the baddest saxophone you ever heard. He must have had somebody make this brass just for him, because he was playing it like it was part of him. It was a five-piece band. They had a bass man and a drummer to round it out, and it was five-part harmony on the one. I'm telling you, I haven't heard shit sound that good since I was back in Philly, and that had to be at least 40 years ago. Man, I sure miss Philly. Now, I did mention they all looked a little bit different. I mean, the men and the women, something about their heads, they were all kind of stretched out in the back with a hook. That's the best way I could describe it. It wasn't like a deformity. In fact, it seemed to me now that I think about it, I probably was the odd-looking one since they all looked the same. Everybody was grooving, so nobody seemed to pay it any mind. It wasn't like somebody stepped to me and said, "Hey, man, we notice you're the only one here that doesn't have a warped hook head." The thing about it, I was just checking it all out, so I had to pay close attention. The whole night was strange, so that was my reason. Hey, at first glance, you in a blue light jazz room with folks having a good time socializing and grooving to some jazz and blues. All you're really supposed to do is settle in and enjoy. My thing was how I got here in the first place. See, man, what I'm telling you now is how it was once I chilled. I was with it at this point, but it didn't start out that way. I want to say it was this past Thursday. No, maybe Friday, definitely Friday. I remember now because Lou Franklin cashes checks at the liquor store on Fridays, and there was a line of people when I stepped up in there to get me a little taste. He was getting salty with some female about her ID, and he cut a look over at me. I know he thought I was going to get him, but surprise, I actually had a little change in my pocket this time, so I was a paying customer. Besides, I got his ass a couple of days earlier anyway. Ha! Where was I? Oh yeah, I had my bottle, and I was just going to take me a walk and a sip while I made sure not to trip. I was walking down Hauser towards 41st Street, and I was going to cut over by the warehouse there on the corner and sit on the side and finish enjoying my cocktail. That's when I saw a light coming up behind me. I was thinking to myself, why are these cops getting ready to fuck with me? But I noticed they didn't have their siren on. As a matter of fact, the light was coming down over my shoulder, but I didn't hear no helicopter engine. By the time I turned around, the spotlight was all up on me and all over me. Next thing I knew, I was in the light. I mean, it was around me everywhere, and I couldn't see anything but the light. I was thinking, is this that shit they say happens to you when you die? I still had my bottle, so I figured at least I get to have this last hook before I'm out. Only problem was I was still me, still alive, only inside this light. All of a sudden, I got this buzz and felt like I was going to puke because I was lifting up in the air real fast like being in an elevator. I could see everything from inside this light. And that's what was strange, because as bright as it was, it didn't hurt my eyes. I don't even think I was squinting, and I could see everything. The city below me, the cars, the top of the buildings, I could see it all. It all happened so fast, and before you know it, all I could see was sky and stars. I was in space looking down like I was in orbit, but I wasn't in no rocket. I don't even remember it feeling like I left the world, the earth. Just like that. Fast forward, and I was up there with my bottle. I want to say I was tripping, but it happened so fast I didn't have time to trip. I just watched the stars. passing by with me inside this light. Oh yeah, man, there were planets too. They were real big, and I was flying right next to them real close. But it wasn't any of the planets I remember seeing in a magazine or on NASA. I know what Jupiter looks like, and Mars maybe, but I didn't see neither one. All of it happened, and then the light just dropped me in front of this juke joint I've been telling you about. It's like if I had sneezed. By the time I rubbed my nose, I was there. It put me there like that. Nobody said anything to me, and I didn't see any of them bug-eyed bastards like on some E.T. shit they be having on some of those UFO Monster Finder TV shows. I didn't even see the light that got me here take off, for that matter. Just heard me some music, and the spot was in my face, so I just went on in. I stood by the door for a minute and sat down and started listening to the players. I saw people smoking, so I reached for an ashtray and asked the bartender to hand me a shot glass full of ice. They didn't say nothing about my bottle, and this was some weird shit anyway, so I just let it do what it do. The music was something else. I saw a pretty young thing sitting at the end of the bar, bulbous head and all, but man, she looked so sweet I could just put her in my coffee. I caught her eye and tilted my glass toward her. She smiled and gave me the look. I was clean and I knew it. I was eating this up, and since I looked the part, I walked over there and introduced myself. She didn't say anything, but I could definitely feel her vibe. All I said was how bad these players were putting down the set, and she nodded her long head with approval. We were both into the music, man, and she was smoking some of those classy dame cigarettes. So I picked up a book of matches and offered her a light. Even the matchbooks were cool. They had some kind of funky swirl pattern on them and a brushed aluminum cover, and they had this band on the inside that when you touched the end of your smoke, it just lit up. Talk about a lucky strike. The only other thing about them was these fingers they all had. I had noticed the bartender's hands at first when he passed me a glass, and as I looked around, they all had these funny fingers, but to me, it was just one of those things. As she touched the back of my hand while I was lighting her smoke, and I noticed she had no pinky finger, just 3 long fingers and a thumb. It looked odd, but her touch was like satin, so I didn't care if she had only had a claw. It's been a long time since I've been in the company of a sophisticated lady like that, and if this was a dream, I was hoping it would go my way, if you get my drift. Every time she looked into my eyes, I felt her. She was just, the whole thing was, man, all I can say is everything there was out of sight. The players jammed a couple of sets, and I was right there with them. I don't have a watch, so when they finished playing, nobody said anything. Everybody just started pairing up or whatever and moving toward the door. I don't remember hearing any voices, but like I said, there was a lot of good conversation. So I guess they had their own thing. I don't even remember what the lady's name was, or if she even told me. We were just having such a good time with each other. I stood up and asked her would she like to join me for a cup of coffee or something a little later. I don't know what I would have done if she had accepted, because I didn't even know where I was, you dig? She stood up and my heart almost dropped. She had the body of a goddess, long legs, and the body shape I like. Nothing but class. She was gorgeous. She had been sitting the whole time, and when she smiled and nodded her head again, somehow I knew she was excusing herself and she would be mine for the night. Females always like to do that kind of meeting in the ladies' room thing when they are feeling you. I was just sitting there smoking a square, anticipating the second half and waiting for her to come back from the powder room when I noticed the blue lights in the room were flickering. I hadn't noticed this before, but they all flickered except for the main spotlight on the stage. I don't know what made me start looking at that light, but I did, and next thing I know, I was inside it, just like before. I was like, what the fuck? Here I go again, And there I went again. Everything just became this light with me inside it. I was right back in the stars, and it was the same thing. The trip home without even so much as a goodnight kiss from the honey pie I had just been hanging out with. Next thing you know, I was back on the block. I had a buzz, so I just rode with it. This situation had me feeling fine on cloud nine. I missed catching up with you guys yesterday because I went down to the pier and did me some fishing. When I came on back around the way last night, I couldn't find either one of you. You're not going to believe it, but I actually went to church this morning down at the mission. I haven't been to church since Hector was a pup. I thought for some reason it was a spiritual thing on some level, so I felt like I wanted to hear some words from the preacher man.
Man, is this where you say you were standing when the light scooped your ass up?
Man, look, I know what happened. I know what I saw. It sounds like some crazy bullshit, but I was there.
No, I know what really happened. Your drunk ass passed out, and the last thing you remember is looking up at the street light. Fool.
Come on, Johnny. You were on tilt Friday and caught yourself a ride down to the pier yesterday. That sea air hit your drunk ass, and it made you want to get some sanctification this morning. It's first Sunday, so you already know they always got a food spread. That's why you had really went to church this morning, you nappy-headed rascal.
Hank, I saw his ass get on a city bus yesterday, headed down to the beach.
Yeah, man. Y'all are probably right. Hell, maybe I was fucked up. Church was good, though, even still.
I know, bruh. But Johnny, you were still the man. Hank, you got a square on you?
I got one for each of us, but I ain't got no fire.
I got this, homie.
So, you say a light just came down, swooped your ass up, and took you to a jazz club? Man, Johnny, you are a trip.